November 2021, Manchester United in chaos. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just sacked. A 40-year-old assistant coach with zero senior management experience is handed the team for 3 matches. And what does he do?
Yeah, a few tweaks and changes from the other night, freshen things up a little bit. Obviously Anthony and Donny as well. And yeah, of course, Cristiano is probably your standout name. But yeah, just game plan ideas. Had a good chat with Cristiano actually. He was great, and we've decided to go like that today. So
he benches Cristiano Ronaldo. He restructures the midfield, and for the 3 games, he had 0 losses. Then he hands the team to Ralf Rangnick and disappears. 4 years later, after Rangnick, after Erik ten Hag, after Ruben Amorim, after hundreds of millions spent and 3 managerial eras collapsed, Manchester United finally gave him the job. And what he does this time shocks the footballing world all over again. 10 wins in 15 games, victories over Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham. Champions League football secured. But this wasn't luck. Carrick knew what Manchester United couldn't see, and over the next 10 minutes you'll understand why. Because the footage was always there, the proof was always on tape. Manchester United just took 4 years to watch it. In November 2021, Michael Carrick was nobody's idea of a Manchester United manager. He'd spent 5 years on the coaching staff, first under Mourinho, then under Solskjaer. He was the quiet one in the background, the former midfielder who understood the game deeply but had never tested himself in the dugout. Then Solskjaer got sacked after a 4-1 loss to Watford, and suddenly Carrick was in charge. 3 games, that's all he had. Villarreal away in the Champions League, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, Arsenal at home. Most caretakers use that window to steady the ship, keep things simple, don't rock the boat, wait for the real manager to arrive. Carrick did something different. Villarreal away, a must-win to secure Champions League qualification from the group. Carrick restructured the midfield, gave Fred and McTominay clear defensive responsibilities and let the forwards play with freedom. United won 2-0. Jadon Sancho scored. The performance was controlled, disciplined and intelligent. 5 days later, against Chelsea, he dropped Cristiano Ronaldo from the starting lineup. This was November 2021. Ronaldo had just returned to the club as the conquering hero. Dropping him was unthinkable, but Carrick looked at the squad and the system and made a structural decision that nobody else at the club was willing to make. United drew 1-1. But beyond the result, they were the better team. Then Arsenal at Old Trafford. United won 3-2 in a chaotic match, but even in chaos there was evidence of a coherent idea. Carrick wasn't just surviving, he was coaching. In 3 games he'd shown more tactical clarity than United had displayed in years. He'd made decisions, difficult ones, unpopular ones, that revealed a manager who started from what the players needed, not from what the system demanded. And then he stepped aside. Ralf Rangnick arrived. Carrick went back to being an assistant. A few weeks later, he left the club entirely. He never asked for a permanent job. He never campaigned. He just showed them what he could do and walked away. The club had seen it. They had 3 games of evidence on tape. Yet, they hired someone else. In the summer of 2022, Manchester United appointed Erik ten Hag. It made sense on paper. Ten Hag had transformed Ajax into a European force. He'd reached a Champions League semi-final. He had a clear philosophy, possession-based, high-pressing, tactically demanding. He was the kind of modern coach that United had been searching for since Ferguson retired. The club backed him, over £400 million in transfers across 2.5 years. Casemiro, Anthony, Mount, Højlund. The squad was reshaped in his image. And for a while, it worked. 2 consecutive FA Cup finals, including winning one. Moments of promise. The sense that maybe, finally, United were building something. But the structural problems never went away. The pressing was inconsistent. The defensive organisation collapsed in big games. Ten Hag couldn't get the best out of his most talented players. Rashford regressed, Sancho was frozen out, and Bruno Fernandes looked lost. In October 2024, less than 3 months after signing a new contract, Ten Hag was sacked. United were 14th in the Premier League. The club moved fast. Within weeks, they'd appointed Ruben Amorim. Amorim was the hottest young coach in Europe. He'd won 2 Portuguese titles with Sporting CP. He played a distinctive 3-4-3 system, aggressive, vertical, demanding. He was everything Ten Hag wasn't, charismatic, flexible, beloved by his players. It lasted for quite a while before everything began to unravel. Amorim's system required specific profiles that United didn't have. The wing-backs couldn't defend, the centre-backs couldn't build, the midfield couldn't control the game. By January 2026, United were 6th in the Premier League and Amorim was out of answers. He was sacked on January the 5th, 2026, 14 months after Ten Hag. The same position in the table, the same institutional paralysis. And through all of this, through Ten Hag, through Amorim, through hundreds of millions spent and 2 philosophies imposed, Michael Carrick was managing Middlesbrough in the Championship. He'd taken the job in October 2022, 2.5 years of quiet work in the second tier, building a team the right way, developing young players, showing the same patience and intelligence he displayed in those 3 games in 2021. The footage from November 2021 still existed. The evidence was still on tape. Every time United hired a new manager, someone at the club could have rewatched those 3 games and asked, what did Carrick see that we're still missing? Nobody did. In 4 years, United hired 2 of Europe's most reputable coaches. They spent hundreds of millions. They cycled through philosophies, systems and transfer strategies. But the answer was in the building the whole time. He showed them in November 2021. They didn't see it until January 2026. And when they finally called him back, he had 4 months to prove what he had shown in 3 games. On January the 13th, 2026, days after sacking Amorim, Manchester United announced Michael Carrick as interim manager. Contract until the end of the season. The expectation was clear: stabilise the team, finish respectably, then step aside for whoever the club appointed permanently in the summer. His first match was the Manchester derby at Old Trafford. This was Manchester City, sitting second in the table. It was Pep's final run at a title before he left City. Ordinarily, this kind of fixture breaks interim managers before they've even started. Yet Carrick won 2-0. Brian Mbeumo scored the scoring on a rapid counter-attack. Patrick Dorgu crashed in the second at the back post. The performance was controlled, disciplined and fearless. Everything United hadn't been under Amorim. And that game even got a reaction from one of the most unlikely figures ever. Take a look at this sequence. That was a rare reaction by one of the game's greats. And what did Carrick say afterward? Putting things together quickly and trying to put an imprint on the team. I'm not getting carried away. It's one result, but it needs to be a regular feeling with that level of performance. It became regular. 8 days later, Arsenal away, the league leaders. United won 3-2. Carrick's men went to the Emirates and outfought, outran and outplayed Mikel Arteta's side. Then Fulham at home, a 3-2 win. Then Tottenham at home, a 2-0 win. Then West Ham away, a 1-1 draw. The first points dropped. By February, Carrick had taken 13 points from his first 5 matches. He won Manager of the Month. The whispers started. Maybe he's not just a stopgap. Sir Jim Ratcliffe was asked directly whether Carrick was in contention for the permanent job. His answer in March 2026? No, not going there. Carrick didn't respond. He just kept winning. Everton away, Crystal Palace at home. The wins kept coming. Benjamin Sesko, who had looked lost under Amorim, suddenly couldn't stop scoring, bailing United out against West Ham, Everton and Palace with crucial goals. The Slovenian's transformation under Carrick became one of the stories of the season. Aston Villa at Old Trafford, United won. Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, United won. Liverpool at home, United won. By the time the season entered its final weeks, Carrick's record read 11 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses from 16 matches, 36 points. The best points per game record in the Premier League during that period. Better than Arsenal, better than City. Champions League football secured for the first time since 2023-24. Carrick wasn't imposing a system. He was doing what he'd done in 2021. Reading the players, understanding their strengths, building around what they could do rather than what he wished they could do. Bruno Fernandes back in the hole, not pushed wide. Kobbie Mainoo has been given a license to drive forward. The defensive shape is tighter, more compact, simple adjustments, obvious adjustments. The kind of adjustments that required a manager who watched the players rather than the tactics board. By April, the people inside the building had seen enough. Omar Barada, the CEO, and Jason Wilcox, the director of football, had been watching closely since January. According to The Athletic, they'd made their decision by mid-April. Carrick was the answer. The recommendation went to Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe, who had refused to commit in March, who had given Ten Hag a new contract only to sack him weeks later, who had hired Amorim on reputation rather than fit, was a skeptic this time. He had to be convinced. The executive committee met. The late conversations happened. Berardi and Wilcox made their case. The evidence was overwhelming. Carrick had shown it in 2021. He'd proven it again in 2026. The club needed to stop looking for the next big name and trust what was already in front of them. On May 17, 2026, after a victory over Nottingham Forest that mathematically confirmed third place, Manchester United announced Michael Carrick as permanent manager, 2-year contract with an option for a third. The man who'd showed them the answer 4 years earlier was finally given the job. But here's what makes Carrick different from every manager United have appointed in the last decade. He never once asked for it. Michael Carrick is not a self-promoter. After his caretaker spell in 2021, he didn't lobby for the permanent job. He didn't brief journalists. He didn't position himself as the obvious candidate. He handed the team to Rangnick, stayed on as an assistant for a few weeks, and then quietly left. When he took the Middlesbrough job in 2022, he didn't say he deserved the United role. He didn't compare himself to the managers United were hiring. He just worked, building a team in the Championship, developing young players, earning respect the slow way. When Ten Hag was struggling in 2024, Carrick said nothing. When Amorim was failing in late 2025, Carrick said nothing. He was never in the papers demanding a chance. He was never on podcasts explaining what he would do differently. He was in the background of football, waiting. That patience, that willingness to let the work speak for itself, is exactly what Jason Wilcox identified when he explained the appointment. At the press conference, Wilcox was asked why Carrick over the other candidates. His answer was revealing. The understated reason, he said, was Carrick's understanding of the club's cultural DNA. Not his tactical reputation, not his managerial experience at Middlesbrough, his understanding of what Manchester United actually is. Every manager United had hired since Ferguson retired had to learn that. Van Gaal had to learn it. Mourinho had to learn it. Solskjaer understood it but couldn't translate it into results. Ten Hag never learned it. Amorim didn't have time to learn it. Carrick didn't need to learn it. He'd been at the club since 2006. He'd played under Ferguson for 7 years. He'd absorbed the culture, the standards, the expectations. He knew what the shirt meant before he ever put on a suit. Sir Alex Ferguson wrote about Carrick in his autobiography. He described his footballing intelligence in terms he reserved for very few players. The understanding of space, the reading of the game, the ability to see what was coming before it happened. That valued is now the manager of his club. The intelligence that made Carrick a great midfielder is the same intelligence that made him the right choice all along. Carrick never once asked for this job. He never once campaigned. He showed them in November 2021 what he could do. He let them watch 4 years of other men trying and failing, and he came back when they finally called him. He didn't tell them, he showed them. They just took years to look. In November 2021, Michael Carrick took Manchester United for 3 matches and showed them what they needed. They watched him do it. Then they hired Erik ten Hag. Then they hired Ruben Amorim. Both eras collapsed. 4 years later, with the club 7th and the project in pieces, they finally appointed him. He won 10 of 15, secured Champions League football, and also signed a 2-year contract that runs until 2028, with the option to extend for a further year. In 2021, he saw what they couldn't. It just took a while for Manchester United to catch up. So, what do you think? Is Michael Carrick the man to make Manchester United champions again? Let us know in the comments down below.